Good afternoon, and welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. So this is going to be a short episode, a one-topic episode. I do this from time to time. This specifically is about the new release, the new information that came out about the Gotham City Police Department show that's going to be on HBOMax. Now, I do like that Warner Brothers appears to be doing kind of like Disney is doing with Marvel, where it's like, we have this streaming platform, and we can put out our own stuff. We can put out our own, whenever we want, TV shows that tie into our movies. And for the most part, people understand that, because, Disney kind of pioneered that with, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, despite what people may say, does tie into, the Avengers and the MCU. Same with, all the Netflix Marvel shows, where it's kind of a one-way continuity, where it's the events of that don't matter to the larger continuity, but the movies do tie into that. Kind of like how Star Wars had that tiered continuity in the, when was that? Before Disney took over, they had that tiered continuity system, where it's the movies were the top, the movies influenced everything underneath it. Then came the TV shows, which influenced everything below it, but the movies didn't have to reference them, and so on and so on. Now, there are 3 of these shows currently in development. There is The Amazons, which is about the Mascara and the, what the Amazons, do there, when it's not a Wonder Woman movie, which would be interesting. There is The Trench, which is about the Trench from Aquaman, and now Gotham City Police, whatever, I forgot the exact name of the show, it's Gotham City Police Department, or something like that, where it was announced it's just a police procedural that takes place before Batman became Batman, and Gotham City was dealing with this issue. Now, here's the thing. Number one, it sounds exactly like Gotham. And that's what a lot of people said. A lot of people were we just had this show. The show just happened, and it just ended 3 years ago, if that. Because, Gotham ended pretty recently. It ran on Fox for a long time, and I think it ran for 6 years on Fox, and then it went into, and then it ended. It ended with Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. Now, here's the thing. This is going to take place before, immediately before, not when he was a kid. Not immediately after the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, but, as a, when Robert Pattinson's becoming Batman. So I saw some theories this is going to be around the time when people are investigating Batman as a vigilante. So kind of like Arrow Season 1, in a way, where it's the vigilante's there, but we gotta figure out who the vigilante is, what's the vigilante doing, is the vigilante helpful or not helpful to our city, and this sounds like something that could be a movie. And it's a cool concept. And then came people who were oh, it's not Gotham, it's going to be better than Gotham. And I narrowed down what makes it better than Gotham into one of 2 possible categories. Not in my opinion, because I haven't watched Gotham. I know of Gotham, I know of some of what happens in Gotham, but I have not watched Gotham. I will watch this, and I will eventually get around to watching Gotham. So I can't say definitively one way or the other whether or not Gotham was good, whether or not Gotham was bad, or whether or not this show is better or worse than Gotham. Because number one, this show was just announced that it's starting development. So we can't definitively say this is going to be definitively better than Gotham. Now, here's the thing about this show, when we start out with it. There are 2 things that we know for certain based on the 2-sentence synopsis that they gave us. We know, number one, it's going to be in continuity with the movie. It's going to be in continuity with the Batman that Matt Reeves is directing. Is coming out next year, assuming we can get production restarted because of the coronavirus. It's still scheduled to come out on time, but I wouldn't be surprised if it got moved to later in the year next year. Now, that's one thing. We know that, and the other thing we know is that it's going to be on HBOMax. Now, shows like this that are on HBOMax or on Disney Plus tend to not go full 26-episode seasons. There are very few, if and I don't think there are any shows that are streaming exclusive that go 26-episode seasons. Because even shows like Atypical, which is a half-hour show, that's 13 episodes a season. Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones were all 12-episode seasons. There's virtually no shows on streaming that go the full 26 episodes. And there's probably some that I just don't know about, but they tend not to do it. They tend to go 12 to 13 episodes, which is fine. So we're anticipating this is going to be 12 to 13 episodes. Now, it's a TV show, not a movie event, so we know it's going to be either a half hour or an hour long. And because it's streaming, it's going to actually be an hour and not 40 minutes, because they don't need to work in commercial time. So what we're getting is we're getting a 12-hour-long police procedural movie about that. Instead of, let's say, 23 episodes a season for Gotham, 23 times 40 is 900 and change, let's say 15 hours of it. So you're getting a little bit less in the grand scheme of things. You're getting 2 hours less. But either way, it's still a lot of content. And the other thing is, because it's not spread out over 23 episodes, it's spread out over 13, presumably, because this is all me making assumptions based on what we already know about, other streaming shows. I could be completely wrong. The budget will likely be bigger because the streaming show budgets tend to be bigger than that, because I'm using Disney Plus as the framework here, because that's what Disney Plus is doing, and they have also said that for shows like Doom Patrol, and when they start production on it, Green Lantern, these shows are going to have the production budgets of movies. And if you spread that out over 13 episodes, it can end up being a bigger budget than a show like The Flash for network television, or presumably Gotham. So the two things we can pretty definitively say is that it is in continuity with the movies, and it has a bigger budget than other shows, which are both kind of superficial reasons to say this is going to be definitively better. Because we know nothing about the writing staff, we know nothing about the effects crews, we know nothing about who's directing episodes, we know nothing about the showrunner, we know nothing about anything. We just know the show's in development with Matt Reeves consulting, it's going to be in continuity with his movie, and it's going to take place before his movie happens. That's all we know. So definitively, we can't say one way or the other, this is going to be better than Gotham, or it's going to be worse than Gotham. We just know it's going to exist with a similar concept to Gotham, but even that's not exactly correct, because this seems to be more like Arrow Season 1 than Gotham, based on the premise, and based on how I've seen people, portray it online. But even that could be incorrect, too, because it could be almost exactly like Gotham. But we don't know. We don't know anything about this show. So, keep looking out for information, because, here's the thing. This show might be entering development, but there are 3 shows that we know are coming, that have not entered production yet. And that is Green Lantern Corps, which hasn't even entered casting, or we don't have writing crews for the show. There's no writer's room for Green Lantern. There's no writer's room for the Trench. There's no writer's room for the Amazons. It could be like Metropolis, which was picked up originally for DC Universe, and then nothing ever came of that. It could be like, or it could end up like any number of movies that Warner Brothers had on their slate. Batgirl, Gotham City Sirens, David Ayer's Suicide Squad 2, which ended up getting canned in favor of, what's it called? The other one. There's the Cyborg movie, which hasn't happened yet, which was supposed to come out this year. The Green Lantern movie, which was supposed to come out, but that hasn't happened yet. Man of Steel 2. There's so many movies. Supergirl. So many movies that were in active development at one point that are just kind of there, and some of them are still in development. They still want to do them, but we have not had any news yet about them, so we can't definitively say one way or the other what's going on. So we'll wrap up there for today. I'm looking forward to this. I'm not against the concept. I'm not against anything going on with it. I feel the same way about most comic book media that I do about, Star Wars. I'd prefer to have good media than bad media, but I'll take bad media over no media. Like I watched The Flash Season 5. That got really bad for a while. Like Arrow Season 4, I watched the entire way through. I almost dropped it after Season 4, but, I watched it. I'll watch it. I'm not, it's like I'm not going to watch it. But until we start getting information about showrunners, information about writers room, who's going to be there, what's going to actually happen. And see, that's the other thing about this show, is that because of its ties to the movies, I think it's going to be stricter with embargoes than Gotham was. Because we knew Gotham was never going to cross over into a movie. They could do basically whatever they want. They had Poison Ivy, they had Catwoman, they had Joker was there, they had the Penguin, they had I think it was just like a who's who of every Batman villain they could pull in, they brought in for Gotham. I don't think that's going to be the same amount of leeway given for this show, because at the end of the day, they have to keep some of these characters in their back pocket to have Bruce Wayne face off, or to have Batman face off against in, what's it called? In, whatever it's called, in the Batman, and its subsequent sequels. So they're not gonna, like, if they're gonna do the Joker's presumably not in the next movie, they're not gonna have him there. And, like, if they're gonna do this, they gotta pay a lot of money then for, like, Robert Pattinson to reprise. Or if they're gonna have Colin Farrell come back, or if they're gonna have Paul Dano come back, or any number of other characters that they want to come back, they gotta, that's gonna cost money. It's gonna cost a lot of money in casting alone. So I'm hesitant to say definitively one way or the other this is gonna be better, but with things like that, it's kind of hard to say it definitively will. So until then, we'll be back next week with our next episode. Until then, have a great rest of your week.